Signs of a dying relationship. Story 1. For me, no laughing is the biggest indicator. Humor is my #1 non-close relationship turn on, and it's extremely important in a relationship for me. Once that's gone, I know the relationship is almost gone. Story 2. My aunt and her husband visited my mom in her house this year. She put Dire Straits on Spotify for them to listen. My aunt's husband did one loud clap on the rhythm of the song. My aunt complained about it like it was the worst thing in the world. He felt bad and remained silent for the rest of the night. Not to be an unpleasant person, but I hope they divorce so he can live his life in a better way. Story 4. When my girlfriend started saying things like fudge off, I hate you, and I hope you flipping pass away, I took that as a hint that our relationship was going downhill. Story 5. Lack of intimacy. Not just close relationship intimacy. When you don't feel like the other cares about love or a relationship to it much, never even touches you nicely while walking by, never wants to hold hands. When you can count the number of times you had close relationship in a year on one hand, nobody plans dates anymore. I agree with what one user said. When it feels more like roommates, that's a sign the relationship has lost its spark. Story 6. I was about to say indifference, but I feel like that's more of a sign of a dead relationship rather than dying. I know when my last relationship began dying, the biggest first sign was I could no longer envision a future together. I was no longer able to picture getting married, buying a house, having kids, being old, attending family events, etc. I enjoyed the present, but when I would think about the future, I would feel poor because I knew that one day we would have to break up. Story 7. Do you look forward to not spending time with them? Do you feel emotionally exhausted after spending time with them? Are one or both of you exhibiting a lot of criticism, contempt, dishonesty, or stonewalling? Those are the best signs I have. Not just an errant thought of what it would be like to be single, but the things that build up an exit. If I look forward to not being around, if I need to be away from them, just breathe. If they constantly nag about everything wrong about me, if they look down on me and speak poorly, if they can't respect me enough to tell me the truth about something or continue to hide things, if they just won't tell me what's up and shut me down, it doesn't sound like it's going well, does it? Story 8. Less initiative. They don't talk to you as much unless you talk to them first. They don't check up on you any. Besides the possible small chat, they mostly just talk to you when they need something. And obviously less close relationship, especially less close relationship initiated by them. Story 9. That ugly feeling of, we don't have nothing else to offer to each other. And then all that past and beautiful moments are coming in your head, making you a few more weeks of agony, till once a beautiful thing just passes away on ugly way. Story 10. To me, it was the feeling of not missing them when they weren't there. I don't mean in a clinging way, but just that they did not cross my mind or heart as often as they once did. I could do without them. In the sense that I didn't feel like I was contributing to their life in a meaningful way. We weren't growing together anymore. We grew individually, but not together, if that makes sense. The playfulness is gone. In its place, a minorly critical nature. Distance. So great that it leads to separation, ultimately. A breakdown of communication is going to be step 1. Asking yourself whether you should share certain feelings with your partner for fear of this or that is another. Great love requires great vulnerability. If you can't be yourself with your partner, then you need to seek an understanding as to why you choose to shield yourself. It needs to be reconciled. Story 11. Hanging out with them or just planning dates seems like a chore. You get bored easily and it's kind of like a struggle, if you will, to even find something to talk about. Can confirm, as it's happened before. Story 12. One indicator is if you become in the blue, if your once mutually lovely long texts showed equal length, blue, you, and gray, them. If one of you become noticeably in the blue, with blue filling the texting screen and the other's grays have become perfunctory, the gray has lost interest or alternatively the blue is more invested. Some people don't really like texting, of course, but any changes are a sign. Story 13. When you become aware that anything you say is a potential weapon against you at some point in the future and you stop telling them stuff, when everything is measured and compared, when you feel a burst of joyful freedom feeling when they are not around, when you stop caring about their crying and drama-s and feel no sympathy. Story 14. When every conversation feels like you are getting the cold shoulder. The only time you do anything is errands, no dates. When they seem to be more concerned with money, like they only see you are a source of cash than a person. When they act like everything you say or do is repulsive, no matter how nice it is. You sleep in separate bedrooms. When you go to work rather than work from home, so you can avoid an argument. Currently facing the above with my wife. Already making plans to get a divorce. It was a good 30+ years, but everything must end at some. But I can't pretend I'm happy when I'm dead inside. Story 16. They never seem happy to see you. Very preoccupied with what their ex is doing. Bonus points if you feel they show more emotion or care toward that person than you. You're not being given a fair shake. Keep secrets and omissions from you. Will even go to extreme lengths like ghosting to avoid telling the truth. Your gut keeps sounding an alarm that something isn't right. They'll bad person that you're not listening, but they don't tell the full truth. Major life plans. Goals will be made with you in the dark about it for their selfish benefit, because you won't be a part of it. When they make up their mind, they'll dispose of you. Treats you like an afterthought. Only speaks to you after they have done everything else they wanted. Will make excuses and sabotage plans to avoid spending time together. They criticize you for something you did, like not holding the door for them, and after sabotaging excuse-making for plans, you're stuck with a problem they make you helpless to correct. You feel less like a partner and more like a placeholder. They spend the little time with you. They do give without an inkling of romantic notions to vent about stuff in their life. Never says with any conviction how they feel about you. Starves you of affection. Never said they miss you. Never said they loved you. Their actions will reinforce why they didn't reciprocate. They make you afraid to be affectionate because they'll react poorly each time you do. You walk on eggshells. Does things that blatantly hurt you and your trust. You're in this thread. Actions speak louder than words. If you find yourself wondering, if they felt the same way about me as I do them, would they do? Insert whatever here. If you ask this question at all to yourself, there is a problem. This is just a bunch of nonsense I recall from a messed up holiday season a while ago. Story 17. When they don't have a life of their own, become codependent. Examples. Either doing things together or sitting at home waiting for their partner. No in between. Not having hobbies of their own. All your friends are their only friends. I've watched so many relationships turn resentful and toxic because of this. And it can go both ways. The person planning everything gets annoyed, feels like there isn't balance. Or the person who is codependent is resentful when they aren't invited to everything, gets lonely or jealous. Story 18. Well, this thread makes me feel very not okay. There have been 4 deaths within the span of a year and a half or so. So I try to not criticize my relationship too much because I know my partner and I have been dealing with a lot. But at the same time, I don't know. Story 19. It becomes one-sided. My friend and I are like this. I try a lot and no effort is put in by them. I've stopped putting in effort to see if they give a cow, and every once in a blue moon they invite me to things, but that's it. Story 20. Hard to tell. We were planning physical, going on dates, hanging out up until October. About a week or 2 into the month, my wife wanted a divorce. Said long time coming, found out she's been flipping an ex. Story 21. I think one that most people ignore is when one person stops arguing. If your partner used to, for example, complain about you missing trash day every single week, but suddenly you wake up and the trash is already outside, most people will think everything is okay now. Story 22. I wish for everyone here that's going through heartbreak or any type of emotional pain. I wish your 2024 will be better and you can find some inner peace and love. Outside love is hard when you hate yourself, and that also terminates relationships. Slowly, love you all. Story 23. When you try to talk to them, and they're only ever replying to what you're saying. You're the only one who ever starts conversations. Long time to reply to texts. They don't willingly tell you things in. Story 24. If someone, seemingly out of the blue, starts plastering social media with how happy and in love they are, and they're going to be together forever, it's a pretty reliable sign that the status is about to revert to, it's complicated. Story 25. Not having engaging conversation where you actually surprise each other, even after being together a long time. Not laughing. You should always be able to make each other engaged and find each other smart and humorous. Story 26. When you're arguing over every little thing, she or he doesn't care about you or your feelings. Dissolving trust. Not doing anything together. Feelings are gone. Protective of their phones. Not putting out. Negative weight gain loss. Story 27. When people who love sharing funny memes, pics, videos with their partner stop sharing. In my specific relationship, my partner loves pigs. So when I see a pic or gif of a cute pig, I'll send it to him BC. I know it'll make him smile. So for me it would be, if I ever stop sending him pics, gifs of pigs. Story 28. When they're trying to pick fights, they want to argue. When the gut feelings hit and you're suspicious. Especially when you do the opposite of the top comments. Make plans and keep it fun with them and do what you can, and they just terminate the relationship with fire. Story 29. When my mates start talking to me again. Always joked that one of my mates would get locked in a cupboard by his girlfriend because when they were together you couldn't get a flipping word out of him. Maybe a laughing emoji every now and then. All of a sudden he's messaging asking to meet up every weekend and then decided to say on one night, me and my GF are splitting up. My reply was, Oh, I wondered why you're actually speaking to us again. Then, a couple of weeks go by, and he's downloaded every single dating app and starting talking to another girl. Now he won't speak to me again and is absolutely hooked on another girl? I find it weird, TBH. Story 30. When the way they say I love you changes. My ex and I used to say I'm in love with you at least once a day, and then they stop. That's when I knew the end was near. Story 31. When you hear what they're saying, but you don't listen. When you're physically there, but you're not present. When you say I love you, but you don't show them. When Friday date nights look the same because no one is trying. When you don't smile when your eyes meet theirs because they're consumed by the endless scrolling on your cell phone. When you're more interested in liking photos and memories of others instead of creating your own. When you need to ask us instead of them. Story 32. With me and my ex-fiancé, I just no longer wanted close relationship with him. That was the biggest indicator for me. The thought of having close relationship with him just repulsed me. Story 33. Lose of interest in same things and topics which used to excite them. Long pauses of meeting, late replies, feeling lack of interest and happiness, cold answers. Story 34. Apathy. Love and hate are opposites. So oftentimes we might think the end of love looks like the beginning of hate. But the reality is, they are both very strong emotions we experience. When a relationship is truly over, it's the absence of emotion, absence of strong feelings, that marks the end. Apathy. Story 35. Contempt. Not anger or disappointment or frustration, because all of those are par for the course. But once a partner feels contempt for the other, that relationship is on life support. Story 36. When there is a huge gap between how you feel about them versus how they make you feel. The constant conflict of loving someone who makes you feel like nonsense is too exhausting to maintain. Story 37. A dying relationship shows signs of trouble that can be seen through how people interact and feel about each other. One sign is a lack of communication. When people stop talking openly and honestly with each other, it can weaken the bond. Another sign is constant arguing or fighting without finding solutions or compromises. When trust is lost, it can be hard to rebuild, and suspicion or jealousy might grow. People in a dying relationship may feel distant or disconnected from each other, like they're drifting apart. They might also lose interest in spending time together or stop making efforts to make each other happy. Sometimes, one or both people might start seeking attention or affection from someone else outside the relationship. Feeling unhappy or unfulfilled or having different goals and priorities can also indicate trouble. It's important to recognize these signs early and address them together through honest communication and effort, or consider if it's better to move on separately to find happiness. Story 38. When she yawns and you anticipate the clicking noise her jaw's about to make before it makes it. When it does make the noise, you have a physical, visceral reaction. It makes nails on a chalkboard sound like a beautiful lullaby. That's when you know you should have left years ago. Story 39. When all the serious conversations stop working. When any communication becomes ineffective at resolving issues or a persistent issue. When yelling starts immediately after frustration because you just don't feel heard anymore. I always thought I was a great communicator, but even the best communicator can't do so with someone who's dedicated to not understanding. Story 40. When you're both messed up off at each other the whole time. When you see people of the opposite close relationship behind your back. When you become petty and vengeful. When you don't forgive and always bring up past mistakes. When you let each other's mental illness take the wheel and cruise control off the flipping cliff. When the smallest bit of attitude unlocks resentment on a biblical scale. When becomes an everyday threat. When everything you do for the other person is just taken for granted. When they go full disclosure on body excretions and turn into a flipping goblin. When they gain so much weight and eat your flipping food of your plate and clean your food reserves and always flight about flipping food. When they go through your phone and interfere with your personal and work relationships but don't allow you the same courtesy. When they justify all this poor behavior by blaming you. Jesus Christ, just flipping bail and don't ever allow someone like this in your life. Story 41. When she no longer gets mad at you. In my experience, a woman that cares gets just a little mad at you almost every day. When she no longer does, she no longer cares and is planning to bail. That's when you should fudge her sister or her best friend. It's the right thing to do. Give her an out. It would be messed up not to. Story 42. When you stop arguing or giving a cow what the other person says or thinks. Second to last stage, I'm always the arguing and fallouts, and then you get to the point you just simply don't care anymore. Story 43. When your partner says or does, make plans with their opposite close relationship, friend, or same in case of boy, doesn't care about your health or long life, is not serious about relationship, checking out opposite close relationship, or same if boy, And making comments about physical appearance, losing interest, when planning is a nightmare. Wants to be friends with their ex, when you have to ask such questions. When your family friends in large numbers might be against your relationship with this person. Story 44. When you post on Reddit asking for advice instead of talking to them. When I first posted, I thought I still had a chance to save the relationship. By then, it was already long gone. Story 45. I'm going to say when they were already going to get divorced but got back together. Some states have a law where you have to wait like a month or something before you can actually get divorced. If you ask me, it seems like a stupid law, because what good does that do? And yes, I know someone that's done this. And yes, a couple years later now, they're really going to get divorced. No, but I'm going to be alone, poor me. It's going to stop it this time. No, it's not me, lol, it's a relative going through this. Story 46. You avoid each other. You only communicate superficial things. One or both partners have expressed needs that aren't being met. You stay quiet for one or more of the following reasons. 1. Tired of asking for the same thing. 2. Afraid that what you will say will lead to an argument. 3. You can never win. 4. It's like talking to yourself. 5. Afraid of abuse, verbal, emotional, physical. 6. You start to detach. 7. You aren't friends. Partners. Story 47. I was in a long-distance relationship for about 3 years and have been broken up with twice. The first time around, I noticed something was definitely off when he wouldn't reply to any of my messages, pick up calls. That behavior went on for 2 whole weeks. I still noticed him actively being online on video games we used to co-op in. Even then, when requesting to play, he'd deny me. After those 2 weeks, he eventually came back to break up with me via text. The second and final time around was just this year after dating for another year since the first incident. And ironically enough, the same patterns played out all over again. Being ignored for about 2 weeks, no communication whatsoever, and a breakup text with no intent to fix whatever didn't seem to work out that time. Both times it was me desperately trying to save what we had, though that attempt was unfortunately very one-sided. No conversation and communication, no reassurance or intent of making sure your partner is not put in a position of complete confusion, are definitely signs of a relationship that might not be meant to last.